So I'm not going to take, I think death by presentation is the worst form of death. So I'm not going to take too much time explaining my slide, but the idea was to basically talk a little bit about product thinking and then make it a more interactive session other than me being giving you all the necessary gyan which you already know, right? So everyone's talking about products these days, you know. You go to LinkedIn and there's almost thousands of articles, thousands of posts on product management. Everyone says products, 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 right? So what exactly is a product, right? Let's first delve deep into it, understand what product is, and where did this product thinking thing come from, right? If you go to Google and type in product management today, this is what you get. Almost 90% of those images on Google Images and 90% of the articles talk about product management. It's a very blurry image, apologies for that. But they basically show you the intersection point of UX, which is design, tech, and business. The point itself is called product management. But is that really product management? What do you think?
Product management, probably these are the functions that includes that need to be focused, but that is not a product management. Probably how do we right from the scratch, how do we build on this? All together can be product management, but not only the functions.
How about Raman? What do you think? Is this indicative of product management?
In a way, from a company perspective, but I think there's more to it as you scale. I think the enterprise customer centricity is more important. It's the empathy part of product management. Which for me is
empathy is the right word. I'll come to that.
So is what I'm really thinking as a central theme.
So when I started learning about product management some 10 to 11 years back, I was under the conception that this is product management. But now after spending a decade in products, doing different products and coaching several students, this is a very shabby diagram, but the idea was to basically talk about what product management entirety is. So typically there is a product stack that talks about design, that has engineering, data, marketing, sales, UX and operations. There could be many more functions. And then there is a human stack, which comprises of a human being with his own cognitive biases, ethnographic data points, geopolitical data points, socioeconomic data points, his knowledge curve, and some elements of rationality which basically form the crux of his decision-making process. But beneath all that, there is a human being who has a genuine problem. He's facing a problem, and that problem has to be addressed. It needs a solution. So product management is typically using all the product stack functions to create a solution or a product that addresses this particular problem. I'm not using products or services interchangeably. I hope you guys can actually clearly differentiate between that. But the idea is to basically, this is actually representative of what product management has become over the years. So you take into account all these things and design something. But again, if you were to reach there to solve that problem, you have to have something called customer empathy. And here's the, but before we go there, let's first, who's this guy exactly? Any idea?
The guy who created that product life cycle.
So this guy, Teddy Levitt, is called the father of modern marketing. Right? Marketing myopia, you paper in Harvard Business School. And he spoke about the fact that you need to focus on the problem. Most people are solution focused in India. Everybody is designing a social network for kids. And I go to these incubators and I see that people are designing solutions, but there is no apparent market for that. The question over here is that, what do you do to basically understand that problem? How do you get that problem? And that's where empathy, as Raman spoke about, comes into account. Now here's an interesting fact. There is a professor called Professor Brené Brown, who is a global authority on empathy in the world. And she says that 90% people in this world cannot differentiate between empathy and sympathy. And here's the difference. So if somebody is going through a painful process or trauma or something, and you basically say that you feel your pain because you have gone through the same ordeal in the past, and you understand what the person is going through, are exactly at the same level to provide or soothe him or comfort that person, you are somewhat empathetic to that person. But unfortunately, in this world, I see this happening a lot. With a lot of entrepreneurs, with a lot of product managers, that they're like, okay, I'm so sorry you're experiencing a problem, and let me do something for you. But that is not empathy. That is sympathy. And when you are sympathetic, you cannot design a perfect solution. And that's what drives me to the next slide, which is how can we be empathetic. So this is exactly the definition of being empathetic. That I am in it with you, I am not here to fix you, I am not here to feel it for you, I am here to feel with you and let you know that you are not alone. This is the global definition of empathy that Brené Brown has proposed over the years. And it is exactly true for the business of products because your products are nothing but a business of empathy. Any questions so far? Really straightforward. Who is this guy? Anyone knows this guy? Yeah. So Funny is a good friend. And the reason I'm showing his face in a not so great picture is because Funny faced this problem when he was a student and used to take buses. He used to find that the bus ticketing process is very, very messy and it's not very streamlined. So that prompted him to create Redbus to streamline the ticketing service, right? But the question over here is that this is when he discovered the problem, that there is a problem here. But when you discover a problem yourself, let's say you're an entrepreneur, right? Let me talk about Vani.co, right? So when you discovered the problem yourself, how did you find out that everybody else has this problem? What did you do?
Okay. So,
Give me a realistic.
yeah, what did I do to find out? Okay. So I started the first thing because I'll talk about my experience. I didn't start directly as a co-founder, right? So I joined Mashi. So I started realizing that there are many people, say, who would sit in a similar meeting room, right? And where they would struggle to come to the point. And after 5 minutes or 7 minutes, the manager would get flustered and ask, "What were you trying to say?" Right? Or the same email, right, where it was written, same question being asked in different words. Essentially, it meant the same, right? Or for one question, to answer one question, there were 5 email exchanges just to clarify one question, right? So that's where, so I became a little more observant about the situation where I'm in, right, and started finding out what the patterns are. That okay, these were probably these were the reasons to these questions, because I was able to do a little better than others, so I would go back and reflect that okay, what I was doing a little better, right, and where is that I'm still struggling. So observing was one thing that I started doing.
Sure. But apparently the question over here is that if it's a problem that you're facing, right, and unless it's something that 100 more people face, it's not really a problem, right? And it's kind of common to all of us.
Right.
In the problem validation process that we do initially before we even build a product, right? What exactly do? We do user interviews, we talk to people, we do surveys, we read consumer reports, we do everything, we run focus groups if we have the money. But apparently the idea is to first see if everybody else is facing the same problem or not. And there might be a situation that the problem you think is a problem is there in your mind only.
Right.
It's never a problem, which is why a lot of startups pivot in the initial stages, right? So this is exactly what you do. First things to do is that when you identify a problem, you create a fictitious map called buyer persona, right? Or a seller persona, depending on what use case you're talking about. And then you have something called an empathy map. How many guys have seen this? You've seen it, no? Cool. So the moment you type empathy on Google, it shows you the empathy map. This specific picture is quite common. So the reason I'm showing it to you is not because you can take view from it or you can actually picture it or whatever. The idea is to see that what is it that you do. You create a persona of a person just like you or a group of people who's facing the same problem. And it may not be correct. It can be something based on what you think is. But the idea is to then go ahead and validate whether that persona really exists or not.
Right.
You can have a group of personas for your own product, for your own problem. So once you create a persona, you create something called an empathy map where you talk about what are the pain points, what are the overall goals, what does this person feel, what are the frustrations, all those things around this specific persona, right? And then the next task or the most arduous task for an entrepreneur is to validate this, which can never be correct, no matter how much you validate it. So you go to surveys, which is quantitative validation, and you think that if 10,000 people have done your survey, it's some sort of an indicator, but might not be true at all. You do user interviews, you talk to as many people as possible. All of you guys would have done it when you started your businesses, right? You would have spoken to people. And then you run focus groups, which is again something which FMCG companies know a lot about. But in software, we don't have the money when we start. So we don't run focus groups quite often, right? But there's one company that did something very extraordinarily different. And that company is called Buffer. How many of you have heard of it? So Buffer, before even building a product, they went out and built a small landing page with a payment gateway, saying that if you're really interested in this product, if you think you have a problem, why don't you pay money and buy it? They wanted to test that, is there a possibility that without even building a product, people will pay for it? And surprisingly, people paid for it. This was never done, but after Buffer did it, a lot of companies in the valley started following this model. So they would create a landing page or a 2-page website and put up a payment gateway and say, this is the problem, this is what we are offering. If you're interested, pay up or pay some percentage of it, whichever the case be. And this could also be a great method of validation because in the process, you save time. Any doubts till here? Has anyone done this so far?
No.
You've done it?
Not this.
You've done it?
Yeah.
Okay, super. What did you do?
So we built out a haptic glove essentially on first we created, and we were just iterating on the design and stuff. We asked some prepayments or advances. It was meant to be an enterprise product, and then there were individuals who showed interest, and then it just could not fit their needs eventually, and it failed. But we returned the money back. So it was not that.
No, but this is predominantly about the fact that you don't even create a product.
No, but the product, yeah, it was very early, very fleshy, but it was not really.
It's like me giving a pamphlet to somebody saying that, hey, here's the product that I want to create. Will you pay money for it?
Yeah, so it was very, very fleshy, I would say. It was not even good. We wanted to do many things, but we wanted validation, whether it would get to that far or not.
I've tried this once in one of my startups and it kind of works.
I keep trying it every day, it works. So.
It works. You don't really have to invest too much resources in building an MVP also.
So you just create a wireframe, show it to your customers, sell it, and then start.
That's all. It's the same thing.
Let us close this Buffer or whichever example. Any one example, just give us what was the product, what was the offering, what is it that.
This is the product. Tweets more consistently with Buffer. So at any point in time, you can schedule your tweets. So initially, what happened was company tweets were to be maintained by a guy who would basically tweet across the day. So it's a company official account handle. There is a guy who's dedicatedly sitting there and tweeting across the day about the update that the company wants to make. But if you want to automate it, schedule it at a specific time when the company should tweet it, they automated that process. This is where it started from. So, but they didn't really know initially that whether it's actually going to stick with people or not. So they created this. This is actually a 2-page HTML website that they created with a payment gateway. And there are people that if you think you have a problem like this and you are willing to shell money out of it, this is the payment gateway, click on one of these plans and pay for it. So a lot of people paid for it, that gave them the confidence to build the product.
I got you. It's like saying, if you are going to buy an EV in future, I'm going to build an EV, right? Pay $250 for it. That's called Tesla.
$500.
No.
So, no, but I'm saying you at least had a picture of the product or something, or just the solution. Just curious.
Just the feature, they say.
Just
the feature.
Just the feature.
It's like me imagining that this could be a solution to the problem.
I got you. I got you.
In India, biggest thing is 247 mobile phone. 247, if you will get it. So many people purchased it, made the payment.
It's a payment.
But you don't put it. Freedom.
251.
251.
It became a scam later.
And the phone never came.
No, okay. He collected total of fees.
In India, that's another problem.
So this is probably the first time in the history of innovation that an innovation turned into a scam.
But
Anyway.
Microsoft also, like Bill Gates actually sold the MS-DOS and he didn't have MS-DOS. went back, bought
That's
some of
business,
the
that's not a
segments.
scam.
Yeah, it's not a scam. I'm not
The
talking
same
about-
strategy
the
is
same
there.
strategy.
Strategy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so once you have done your bit of user research and you have a fair idea with the personas and user interviews and you have a fair idea that this is the segment I'm catering to, right? The next big step is to basically invest in market research. And when I say market research, what do I basically mean exactly? What do I mean by market research? Anybody can enlighten me?
So going to TG and asking them really if there are any.
So if I were to boil it down into, let's say, 2 sentences, that what is the market research for you, for your startup, what would you say? Give me a realistic example from your own life that you have done realistically.
So, market research would actually mean like what? For me, it would be actually understanding the user's problem, and then are there other players who are solving it, and
Sure.
in what way are they solving it? Making my own online research, even talking to competitors, being just acting as a aspirant, calling them and understanding how are they solving the problem and everything. So market research would include everything right from the size of the market to the problem which does it exist and are people solving it, and how are they solving it, and how would my company do it better.
Yeah, so Drucker came up with these strategic frameworks called competitor analysis and 5 quarters, 5 force analysis and all that. These are all ways through which you can do the market research. But essentially it boils down to this simple thing. This is what your market research is all about. This is what is going to get you your funding. The larger the TAM,
I slightly disagree.
okay.
This is market, not market research.
This is market sizing, to be more specific.
Exactly. This
But
is
market research, the most important element of market research is the size of the market.
That's
There
true.
could be many ways to understand the market.
Again, that's true. But the point is, let's just say we are solving the problem of transportation.
Okay.
There's a huge market, and this market is being catered to. Now, is there a potential problem with that, limitations with that? Do I have a better solution than that? And for that solution, the customer willing to buy? Is there a competition? All of this includes in holistic market research. This is good, but this is only
No, I'm talking about the fact that out of all your market research, when you determine everything, it could be the competitors that operate in that space, the environment in which you're operating, the geopolitical conditions, the socio-economic data points, the anthropological stuff, everything that you have done, you understand the market very well, and you understand that if you operate in this specific market, there is a fair chance that you might be successful. There's a fair chance. I'm not saying you're entirely sure about it. But having said that, it's also important to understand which size of the market is. Where are you exactly operating in?
this
So
is
if you are-
mandatory, but this is not the only market research. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, that's true. Agreed. Dissents are welcome,
We can move on. Yeah.
Listen
we
to
are on
the-
the same page. Yeah.
Question over here is that you have to be very careful when it comes to market research because you understand what space you're operating in. House Joy, one of the earlier companies, which was basically a predecessor to Urban Company initially, got their first round of funding solely because of the fact that they were operating in a huge market space. The TAM was quite huge. So I have spoken to people I've spoken to the founder of Traction, and they said that Abhishek Goyal is a friend, and he said that the only reason why they got funding was that there was nobody in that space when they started Traction, right? Similarly, most folks who operate in a large market tend to get funded. It's a correlation, it's not a causation per se. So there might be opportunity that you're operating like, for instance, I'm telling you about my experience. I started 2 EdTech firms. Recruitment space in India is completely flooded with startups. There is absolutely no guarantee if you start a recruitment startup today, you will be vying for, let's say, a 5% share of the market. The pie size is as low as 5% or 2.5% because Naukri operates, then there are job boards, then there are sites like belong.co, lot of other sites. So it's completely flooded with startups and solutions and everything. So where do you exist? In a 5% or a 2.5%. So no matter how hard you try, how formidable your product is, you're not going to get past a certain point. That is what I meant by this exactly, right? But again, thanks for that. But you guys know about all this, no?
Not everyone.
Do you guys know about all this? TAM,
Would be happy to hear your
with
perspective.
it? No, I'm okay. I'm okay hearing somebody else's. What do you think about TAM, SAM, and so on?
Man, I think
Give an example.
pretty straightforward definitions. For instance, in our case, total addressable market would be any person who wants access to opportunities. Serviceable available market, in our case, would be, let's say, women in a certain age group in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Serviceable obtainable market people within that segment who are interested in beauty careers. So
Super example.
that's
A more simple example would be that global advertising business, Indian advertising business, and search business. So if your product is a search engine, that is your service objective market that you're actually buying for if you start a search business. This is a simple example, but what he said actually makes sense, right? Now this is where it gets kind of interesting.
Sort of, SOM
Yes, sir.
to take care of, models of are you the first entrant, how many competitors are there, etc., which is your, when you said percentage of SAM you can realistically capture. In pharma, for example, there are now scientific methods of calculating if you are the first entrant, how much market share you'll end up, second entrant, how much market share you'll end up with, or within a range. Is that what is SOM is?
I mean, it's probably the spendability limit of that specific
Or
segment.
else it ignores the competition still. It's
It does.
including all competition, what is the or potential competition?
So how many, if there are 5 competitors vying for a $20 billion market space, that is the SOM actually. So we have taken into account all that.
Well, it says realistically capture.
They say realistically, but it's
But if
almost
there are 10
approximation.
competitors or 20 competitors, then what you just pointed out, there are limits to what you can capture because there is.
No, they say realistically, but it's never realistic. It's always approximate. It can never be realistic. I don't think I've seen any slide where the SOM was exactly precise or accurate, right? It's always an approximation because numbers keep changing. So today, I mean, we'll take an example, right? 5 years or 6 years back, Facebook was the giant in social media business. It acquired all social media companies and it had close to 1.75 billion people as its users, subscribers, with I think monthly active users of around 500 million or something, if I'm not wrong. Today almost 1 billion people have left Facebook. So again, the markets have expanded, right? Now if you want to start a social media company, now's the time. But will you start it or not is again the bigger question.
No, we are starting.
Best of luck. Best of luck with that. Alright, so is this clear? Little bit? If it's a little hazy, then I can obviously take it
One
offline.
question on the SOM. So we said that it's a percentage of SAM which you realistically. So is it something? Is it always an estimate or is it something which can be mathematically derived as well?
There are ways to do it. There is something called a top-down approach and a bottoms-up approach. Which I think somebody was talking about it yesterday. So I didn't want to raise that issue because it was supposed to be in my slides. So, but there are 2 ways to capture that.
Is there any logic which one to approach because he seems to be a little based on recommendations? Different people recommend top down, different people recommend bottom up. So is there how to go about it?
More or less, the difference is pretty much 10%. So whether you do a bottoms up or a top down, I've done bottoms up for my own startup, and the difference was pretty much 10 to 15% that I actually. So you can always presume that it's not a major deal.
But what happens is when you do top down, it is someone's point of view. Forrester has published 3 billion is a market. Whereas when you do bottom up, you are saying that okay, these are 100 customers like this in this 100 industries, and each of them have 1,000 people to hire. That means I have a potential market of into 10 rupees, which is so and so. This gives a better confidence to the investor as well, because they know how you are going to get that tax.
No, but it's again equivalent to the debate that's going on between democracy and socialism, which is a great framework. And you would talk to people and find that some people go with the top-down approach.
No. My suggestion you go with both, because top down is just a line. You say that according to Forrester, there is a $3.8 billion market.
No, that's not how top-down is calculated. There's a method to calculating it.
Okay.
There's a certain algorithm through which you calculate it. So when you talk about bottoms up, you're talking about all the elements, and then you're going up the pyramid and computing them up, adding them up. When you go top down, you break it, split it down into different elements, and then you add it up. So it's not that we are basically basing a conversation on research done by Forrester or Gartner. It's actually a methodology through which you do it. Happy to work with you and tell you exactly. Yeah. Alright, so this might come as a rude shock to a lot of people who have not seen it, but typically the moment you figure out the problem is something, that the problem is validated and you've got a large market to capture, and all these notions are hypothetical in my mind. Our market size will be small also. But what is it the next thing that you do basically? And the next thing where a lot of startups, product managers, and a lot of people falter is the creation of a strategy stack. What is the strategy exactly? I mean, this is a question. So, two most abused words in India: strategy and artificial intelligence. Everyone thinks they know it, but no one does. So here's the point. So typically, Ravi Mehta from Reforge, who's a friend, created a stack called Strategy Stack, where he spoke about the fact that if you place your mission statement on the top, mission statement of your company, then you place your company's overall strategy. What exactly is it that you're trying to do? And then you create a product strategy based on your overall strategy, on the basis of which you create your product roadmap. This is a list of features that you want to have for your specific product, right? And then you create the product goals or your metrics through which you will measure whether you're doing good or not. Now the dilemma or the conundrum which most entrepreneurs face or most product managers or even senior leaders face that I've seen is that most people confuse product strategy with product goals. I've spoken to people who have told me that the product strategy of my company is to grow our customer base by 10% in the next 3 months. Do you really think that's strategy?
No.
That's not, right? So what exactly is product strategy?
How to acquire something? Probably the strategy. It's how you will acquire.
Anyone who's probably a Gyani on strategy here can tell me a little bit about what product strategy is or strategy is. Normally, let's break it down into strategy. What do you guys think strategy is?
Differentiated value proposition.
Okay, that's the Clayton Christensen definition of strategy. But again, strategy typically is how do I go from point A to point B? Should I take the bus? Should I take the cycle? Should I walk? What will save me time? What will save me cost? Everything else has to do with optimal performance. So strategy or product strategy is typically what do I do to reach here? If you know your end goal, that this is what you wish to do, what do I do? Should I make a web application? Should I make a feature? Should I introduce a button? What do I do to reach there? That is simply product strategy. Or I'll tell you a very simple way to talk about product strategy. And that is that, have you heard of Kano's model? How many of you have heard about Kano's model? Okay, cool. You've heard of Kano's model. Cool. So, typically what you do is that if you want to create your product strategy, you talk about the very next competitors you have, the guys you are competing with very hard, in your space, and talk about all the features they have in their product, right? And talk about the efficacy of those features and the features that they are weak at, that they are not providing their customers. I don't think there's any startup that can confidently say that I am providing everything to my customers. That's a Chinese super apps, right? So question over here is that the feature that they are not providing becomes your product strategy that you will follow in the Kano's model. For instance, if you look at all these Silicon Valley startups like Uber, Airbnb, they were providing things that nobody else provided. So they created a platform for people to get affordable housing in different cities. If you look at Airbnb product strategy, there's a deck there, on the web. You will find that they follow Kano's model. How many people have read this book called The Product Playbook by Dan Ocean? So if you read that book, do read that book if you can. He talks about how you create a product strategy for your product. And if you read different books, you see different definitions, but the gist is the same. They're creating a differentiated factor or a feature in your product that can completely, and when I say feature or a product or something, I'm talking also about creating a moat, which means that the barrier to entry is so huge that nobody can actually compete with you. You are probably the best. Cutting an example. Google was the last search engine that appeared. Of course, Bing appeared after that, but Bing lost the market, and I'm sure Microsoft guys not here. You would have felt bad about it, but again, that's reality. That is what is there, yeah, of course, cash and all. But Google came after all the search engines were there, but they stole a large market share. It's because of a differentiated product and a moat, which nobody could emulate. So unless you create a feature with a moat, there's no guarantee because emulators are everywhere. People can copycat your product in a day or two. In the market itself, when you start a product, within a span of 2 months, 3 months, you'll see 3 to 4 copycats. I've seen it with my own products. Sure.
The ultimate just sorry.
No, that's okay.
In terms of when you talk about the moat and building that, and the ultimate conundrum you face is that you need to build in that feature then there's the constant pressure of launching the product fast in terms of the MVP. So you're caught in the middle. What do you do then?
No, I mean you don't build a moat instantly. The idea is to basically first go ahead and launch an MVP and grab the first
What if
100
the MVP
customers.
gets copied and then you're not have anything?
No, it won't get copied. I mean, there's sufficient. If the market space is huge, there is sufficient space for everyone. But question is, in the next 6 months, can you build a moat once you have 100 paying customers? The question is that in the initial product market fit, if you have 100 repeat customers who come to you for your services every month, can you take that into account and create a moat that nobody else can do?
Would this moat be in terms of features? Because features always can be copied, right?
I'll give you an example. A better example so that you'll understand what moat means. It's a very heavy word, sounds too bad on the ears, but in olden times, when kingdoms were built, and there were people who would come to conquer kingdoms, wars and everything, they would build these lakes with alligators around those forts, right? The idea was that the barrier to entry is so low that chances are my enemy will not be able to come to me. So when I talk about a moat, it's talking about creating a formidable thing. It could be your intellectual property, it could be your content, it could be user-generated content, it could be anything that you talk about, which will differentiate you from the rest of your competitors, which nobody else can replicate that way. For instance, when PageRank came, that's the version algorithm that Google came up with. It was earlier called Backup, I think. PageRank was so difficult to emulate, there are a lot of companies that tried to do that, but they could not do it. So that was their moat, which led them to build a successful ad business, right? So what that moat is going to be is completely your choice, and that again depends on the nature of your business. So if you're running a semiconductor company, your moat is different. If he's running a content company like Netflix, what is the moat for Netflix, by the way? Can anyone tell me? You all see Netflix, no? Every now and then. What is the moat for Netflix? No, original content is there on Prime Video as well, on Hotstar as well. Every single streaming platform is providing original content today. Huh? No?
No, in fact, the streaming engine was initially, but now it has been copied by all of them.
I don't think they have more anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a grand assumption. I'm real.
Talk about that they have been too many countries now,
But Netflix's moat actually is the user experience which people have. That's their moat, which nobody has been able to copy. I am a huge movie buff. I watch a lot of movies and a lot of web series, and I can clearly see the differentiation when I fluctuate between Netflix, Prime Video, Hotstar, and there's even a streaming service called Ullu, which you're seeing on the mobile, right? And I can clearly see at every point where Netflix, every single element of consumer experience or customer experience is superlative.
There's a lot of attention to detail there.
Absolute attention to detail, sir. So if I stop a movie somewhere, right, I'll compare Z5 and Netflix. So if you watch a movie and you have to abruptly stop it somewhere, and you caught up with the movie like 6 years back, you'll be able to watch it right from the point where you left the movie. Talk about
Across devices.
cross devices. Now talk about Z5, a horrible platform, right? You leave the movie, every time you come back after 5 days, it will start from the beginning. So you really don't know, you really forgot where you exactly left the movie at. So you have to again rewatch it. If you left it in the middle, God save you. Anyway, so
No, solve this. It's not just one feature. It's a set of connected choices. Ultimately, if user experience is not just about starting at one point, it is a set of connected choices that you've made every time, including the fact that when it comes on, there is a good sound.
no, the idea is that what can I do to make my customers extremely happy, and how can I make my offerings so enticing?
No, continuously you have to innovate. For example, Nokia was a leader, but it stopped innovating. It was having more. The moment it stopped innovating, other people took over. So one key thing I would say is you need to keep innovating. Consistently, you have to.
I think Nokia still has its moat.
When you build mods, people build alligator killers. Then you have to think of it.
So you other having typically think about is the, for example, low cost airline. It's a typical case.
I mean, Continental versus Southwest.
Southwest is a typical case for product strategy. Right?
Yeah.
Low cost
Continental could not
airline.
replicate that model.
It's easy to say, look, I will have only one type of airline. It's easy to say, I will not serve food. It's easy to say, the airline will not allocate seats. but it's very difficult to do all those connected set of choices consistently over time and having employees that are motivated and very cheerful, etc. So kind of worship the AI kind of become
But talk about Netflix only. Going back to Netflix, if you look at their history, they started from CDs and they actually started with video cassettes and all. They moved to CD, and from CD they were competing with Blockbuster, the startup champion back then. And from then to streaming services to recommendations, they spent $21-30 million on creating a recommendation service. They organized an event 10 years back in San Francisco where they invited all these data scientists from across the world to come and design the best recommendation algorithm. So they've done everything that it takes to innovate. Be it consumer experience part, be it the technology stack, be it every part of their process they've innovated, right?
what ultimately it's about content. It's top, they have great customer
Content is the king.
experience, but
Yeah, but content is content is there everywhere. No? Content is everywhere. Content is there on Prime Video as well. Why is it that most people don't flock to Prime Video? Because the content is not that great. They really don't have content.
It changes from region to region. So no one cares about Netflix in South. Everyone has their own knowledge. So it is region to region, it's very different.
Yeah, but
In the
most of
US,
the guys I've
that's
spoken to, most of the guys I've spoken to tend to like the content on Netflix as opposed to Prime Video. There might be a Mirzapur on Prime Video. There might be
And
an
that is
Hindu
the
on
right
Netflix.
product.
But let's not get into the content part. The idea is that create modes, right? What do you guys think about this diagram? Does it make sense? When you started yours, when you built your product, did you do this or did you do this? Be honest, be candid,
We did this.
Most people end up doing this.
Yeah. Started with that.
But it's actually that. You need a slice of it. Tell everything, So your product, MVP should probably be a slice of all of these things. Not right from the bottom itself. Right? So every time you design a feature also, inside your product, you need to take this particular diagram into account. Right? And this is from a book called Designing for Emotion. I think Don Norman has also written a lot of books for emotional design. If you read those books, you'll understand how you tend to design for users. How do you tend to have empathy for them. And that's again, MVP is reflective of the empathy you have for your audience. Make sense? Straightforward? This is a funny diagram I found on the internet. This is absolutely sensible diagram because this is, as entrepreneurs, as product managers, as product leaders, you have absolutely no power. But you still need to deliver. Right? And how do you deliver? By virtue of persuasion. By virtue of requesting people to do things for you because you don't have any power. Now let's talk about the basic topic, product market fit, that all of us are crazy about. What exactly is product market fit? Has anyone seen this technology adoption life cycle? Where did you see it? It was in a book called Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore, which was written about high-tech companies back in the 80s, back in the 90s, I believe. And they have just created, so typically what happens is all of your startups, whether you're starting a semiconductor company or a social network or maybe an EdTech company, you will probably, most 80% companies die exactly at this point because the products tend to die here, right? You can't cross the chasm. Once you are not able to cross the chasm, you can't reach the early majority, you're dead meat, right? It's a free market economy. Now, product market fit, is that the only definition of product market fit? Let's talk about a tech company per se, right? Is that the only definition of product market fit according to you? Is that a very simplistic definition? Or we could elaborate on it a little more. Whose startup has reached this level? And these 9 startups, where do you think your startups are? Are you a product A or a product B? Let's be very candid. Or you are yet to reach product A. Could be a possibility that you are yet to reach that stage because you are a new startup, you just started like 6 months back or a year back. So where do you think you are exactly in your product journey?
Well, time at 5
So
5, 10, 15.
Sorry?
1
5
years.
Unit of time. Unit of time is that? Could be anything. 5 months, 5 years. Pick one.
Depends on what kind of product you have. Sometimes more towards subscription kind of model. Let's say.
No, this is not dependent of subscription kind of model. This is for SaaS as well as non-SaaS, both. This is taken from YC
What
website.
about one-time fee kind of model when the customer pays you?
This is the product market fit thing.
Not repeat.
This is the product market fit curve. It doesn't have to do anything with your pricing.
It says potential.
Yeah, but we're talking about product market fit. We're talking about flatlining at a particular stage. What is exactly product market fit? What do you think product market fit for you is?
For us, it is, are we able to really transform someone's life using the product that we
So let's go beyond the philosophical definition. Let's talk about product market fit. What according to you? So let's say you have 100 people, and I don't know your business very well, so forgive me for my insolence. But let's say you have 100 customers coming to you every month, right? So something. Is that product market fit for you, and they're ready to pay you?
I mean, I still stick to the same philosophy. Have I transformed the 100 people's life with my product? Are they saying?
And in the process, you made money also, right?
Yeah, in the process.
ठीक.
That's business market fit.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, because the scale of it kind of differs. At a 3 million ARR, am I a product market?
No, I'm just talking about your personal notion. What do you think PMF is for you?
For me, actually, 20% referral or maybe 25%, like more people kind of coming back or getting more people back could be a good.
Okay. So there are two kinds of businesses. One business is where people like for upgrade. People come there, do a course, never come back, right? And the other kind of business is people repeatedly keep coming back. So that's a different distinction that you kind of have.
Indicators I use for B2B SaaS is if the service stops, our customers keeping up. Because for them it is mission critical and not a nice one. In fact, I actually contrary it.
Sure.
If I actually tell from a corporate company to switch off the system and see what happens.
This is more towards B2C companies actually, I think, to be realistic. But typically what I've seen is that in most B2C companies, there is a certain stage you reach where your growth becomes flatline. You might grow beyond that because you increase the demand curve or you kind of diversify your portfolio or your product starts having many features or you cater to different markets. That's another story. But you typically are a flatline till you achieve a certain amount of growth.
Saurabh, in case of a say company like Upgrad, where usually a person is going to do one course, one major course, mini MBA or something. Here, what kind of retention?
Retention is typically like, see, if you look at a cohort analysis of upgrade that I came across, it's probably, I think, from 100% to almost 10% you get, across several years or something, because the courses run for 2 years or 1.5 years or 6 months and all that, 6 months and all that. So if you look at holistically at a 6 months course, you'll probably find the retention rate, because people have paid money 6 months down the line, they're again targeting new markets, right? They're targeting new states. Today they're expanding geographically across the world is only because of the fact that the courses are only one time. So for them it's about venturing into new markets. Today they're doing Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, all these different countries. They're actually for the same reason that the courses are limited actually. But let's say, let's talk about something like, give me an example. Let's say Canva. Canva, you build you basically create something and you have to download it for 75 rupees, right? That's what it charges, right? So, but you'll again come to Canva, no? Tomorrow you'll again come to Canva. So you'll keep on coming. So typically for those kind of companies, but at a certain point, it flatlines. But for a company that's completely constantly failing, it will keep on coming down. It's actually a straight line.
But in the case of Upgrad, how do you define product market fit? I think it should have been led by the virtue of transformation.
There would be something like a relatively lesser investment of effort, money, time, whatever, to get the next paying customer.
No, but I think that could also, PMF could also be very different for different companies. For an upgrade, it might be very, very different actually. Maybe more customers across multiple regions of the world is a product market fit. So if I have like 200 plus or maybe 200,000 customers across the world, that is a PMF for me actually, an initial PMF. But upgrade is beyond that, no? I think they're actually at the late stage PMF part. Anyway, so any more points that...
What about product market fit being when you reach a level that to get orbit of scale, correct? You maintain your unit economics as you go to the next, which means you are able to scale without getting out of your unit economics.
Yeah, but
Is that, so then it doesn't matter whether it is subscription or it is products or it is whatever.
no, but there is actually a conundrum right there. So if you talk about a social media platform like Facebook, right, and you talk about a subscription service like Netflix, right, Facebook does not really, for its, the only thing is that you get more and more people to sign up and spend time on Facebook. The more data you have, the more advertising dollars you can extract from advertising. Right? So their business model is different. Now when you compare it to a SaaS company like a Netflix or some other company, they are dependent on how many people I can basically convert so that I can get more and more SaaS companies, right? So how do you compare these two different kinds of startups? Is the larger question.
No question.
Sorry, go ahead. What I'm struggling with is, just go back to that chasm. See, when you cross the chasm, then at that time, every dollar that you spend extra will give you some proportionate extra volume, profit, etc., etc. Whereas if you are on this side of chasm, there is a good possibility that you may spend dollar and you will not get that. In that case, the product market fit is not. My understanding of product market fit is when you have created a business model where the customer feels the need and is willing to pay for it, and you have demonstrated that you are able to fulfill the need, and the market obviously is large enough, that now you feel confident to spend more money to acquire more customers, because then you will be able to acquire those customers.
Because then it becomes growth actually. What you're talking about is a stage beyond product market fit called growth that we're talking about. So today what happens is that you earn a critical mass of customers who will pay up a certain money to you. You have a healthy free cash flow. And then you talk about investing your cash flow to increase the demand size, the size of the demand, because you have a distribution network already in place. And through network effects, you actually gain a larger market share and become a huge leader. So that is where growth kind of triggers. But before anything before growth, where customer base explodes, people start paying money to you, and you keep coming to you without even inorganically advertising. So you're not spending any dollars, but people are coming to you.
Here is the question.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say was as follows. If you have achieved product market fit, then to invest in growth is a viable strategy. Otherwise, if you keep blindly throwing money at growth and your product market fit is not established, then you waste that money.
So what Seth Godin talks about is that if at any point in time you are not investing marketing dollars in getting people, that is basically product market fit.
Also,
Which according to him is fair definition because he's a market leader, so he's talking from his standpoint. But at any point in time, if you reach a stage where you're not spending too much money on endorsing your product or advertising your product on social media or traditional channels, and people are still talking to you. Through word of mouth, you get virality. That is when you seem to have achieved, because if you look at Code Academy, right, one of the websites, initially when it's a YC startup, so when they started, in the first 6 months, they actually got 300,000 people flocked to their Python course. They had only one course back then. And that's when they said that we have achieved product market fit. That was key enough for them. But it will also be different for different companies.
Rashmi, you want to say something?
Yes, Rashmi.
Yeah, so I was talking about, so there are many apps, right? So if you say that, the app this has attracted 1 million users, right? So can they say that the product market fit, these are not paid users? So what do you say then about these?
No, technically what I'm taking into account only those startups that basically had paid users. So if you talk about 1 million paid users, and you basically, after deducting everything, you still are in profit and you have a free cash flow, you tend to have achieved the product market fit definition, right? But there is also a distorted definition of it, which means that you keep on adding people, at the expense of marketing dollars, right? Till you reach a certain stage where you become
They're
monopoly.
like Ola and Uber, right? So you are invested enough so that at
So
one point in
so
time
then you won't have a product market fit, but they call it product market fit. That's another story.
So we have WhatsApp, where it's free, but yet there's a problem.
Yeah, unless you.
So there are different concepts hanging around this product
My
market fit.
question is that one is that obviously one important thing which happens when you have product market fit is sustainability. That we can agree, right?
Yeah.
Now there will be very different model that one customer buys only once. Does it mean he won't buy that? But the question then is you're serving a market. How well is that product
meeting the need as defined by, as understood by you, it's a one-time need. Is your unit cost of serving that customer lower than the unit price that you procure? That to me is a fundamental question of market fit. That means there is a need, someone willing to pay you 10 rupees and it's costing you. If it's costing you 11, any combination of costs, then there is no fit. That means you cannot deliver the product.
So if your customer acquisition.
So I'm just trying to ask whether
So
there will be many dimensions of it. But the key dimension is sustainability. There is a sustainable way that you produce something, that something is fulfilling a need in the required number so that overheads are taken care of and the unit cost has to be higher. Now, in a sustainable way. Whereas most people are starting off by saying that I have to build a market so which I'll invest. So to get 1 rupee of revenue, I'll spend 3 rupees. But my assumption is very clear, and the assumption would then go wrong, is that I'll keep spending 3 and then it will become 2, then it will become 50 paise, but I'm still selling it at 1. So this was an early investment to reach, but the value of my product is perceived by the customer on an ongoing basis to be 10 when my cost is 8. So with the product market fit, as you rightly said, is many perception, but I'm trying to see what the generalizable principle.
So generally, if you talk about supply side metrics, right? People are computing supply side metrics. They're just saying that we've sold these many units. This is the ARPU per unit and all that. But there's also a demand side metric where you actually talk about whether he's able to generate an outcome with your product or not.
Yeah, so they're willing to pay you X.
Yeah.
Customers values your service at X. And for you, if it costs more than X on a perpetual basis, there's no fit. Fit doesn't mean that you love something, I'll give it for free, that's a fit. But sustainability is key, right?
So to solve this conundrum, there is something called jobs to be done, right? And this was given by again Clayton Christensen, where he said that if a customer has 5 jobs to do, right? And he took the example of something called a milkshake example, right? I'm sure you guys would have seen it actually. But he said that a guy comes to a coffee shop to buy a milkshake, right? And he comes exactly at 8 o'clock. And why does he come for milkshake? Is it because he loves the milkshake? Is it because he wants to have only milkshake as breakfast? Is it because he's picking up the milkshake for somebody in his office? Or is it something very different? So when they spoke to that guy, after he had observed that guy for a month, they understood that the guy, right from his home to his office is almost an hour and a half. He wants to have breakfast in his office. But in this journey, he actually gets bored. When he gets bored, he wants to munch something. And he doesn't want to munch a solid thing, so he takes a thick milkshake every day, so that by the time he reaches office, his milkshake has basically done the job of keeping him out of boredom. So every product is solving a set of jobs to be done that the customer has. If your product or service has solved those jobs to be done, 4, 5, 6 jobs to be done, you can very well say that it's achieved the product market fit because the customer will come to you once again.
No, but then you have
that is one side of the equation, which is product is meeting the requirements of the customer. Product has to meet the requirements of you also.
Which is why I said demand side metrics and supply side metrics.
But that is not DMM, it is profit.
I think I like what Sanjay sir is saying. There has to be either sustainability today or a clear line of sustainability.
Yeah, ultimately product market fit is not, I'm a crazy guy, I want to have salted tea with butter in it. It freaks me out at 7 a.m. and you make it for me. That's not a product market fit according to me.
No, so I can
Nobody else wants it, first of all. So therefore, it is correct that I as a customer, what you are doing for me, you charge me 10 rupees for that, it costs you only 8 rupees per unit cost. But to do everything else, it costs you 5,000 bucks. And no one else is buying. So there is the sustainability question comes from there as one point, right? But the other issue is that to get your product known, you believe that the market value is there, let's say. And you believe that you'll be able to make it at 5 in steady state. So you have 5 rupees multiplied by a certain number, right? So you start, like you said, right? You start at a certain time, and you see that people are beginning to buy it, but it was costing you 12 rupees, then 11 rupees, 50 paise. The guy is willing to pay only 10. Right? So you figured out some sense that prices right? But my cost now has to keep coming down. But I should have a segment of enough people that while I'm building the volume, this customer numbers don't shrink so that while I get 10 rupees per person, I have fewer and fewer customers.
So I'll show that in a different
I mean,
slide.
that chasm was indicating that therefore, even as you keep going further and your volume goes up, by definition, if your costs are not lower than the selling price, you are getting down, going downhill. So you have to build a surplus as well. Either in the,
But that again depends on the nature of the business. For instance, today,
yeah, understood.
Walmart
I'm
is
trying to say a common
Isn't it simply saying for any market, there is a bell curve of customers, and there will be people who will, just because it is new, they will try it. Some others will latch on, see that you've done it and come in. But the vast majority lies in the middle. It's only when they are willing to buy, provided you are able to reach them, etc., all the other, you do all the
But
other.
what if we
You
reach
don't
them?
get distribution reach, etc.
But what if you reach them? Assuming that you reach them, they love your product, but you're still not making money. Because you're selling it extremely at low value or whatever it is.
So I think
There's a possibility there itself.
is unit economics, right? So
Unit is
that's-
cash
So
and
we
LTV.
talk
CAC and
about
LTV.
that implicit, right? We talk address.
So we're talking about unit economics, CAC and LTV. So if I'm spending less and acquiring more value out of a customer, then I'm said to be profitable.
So case in point is Amazon, right?
Next
Amazon
one
is
is
not
There is one definition, I just looked back, which we had created internally. It was predictable, repeatable, positive unit economics is equal to product market. Predictable, repeatable, positive unit economics. Unit economics is important. At the end of the day, you have to make money.
So now you may have a business model. I think yesterday, I don't know whether it was yesterday that we talked about foundation model.
Yes.
Yeah.
So funding is given not by the customer there, but there is someone who is willing to fulfill a social purpose for which they are willing to pay X. What they will do is they may have 3 people who are willing to do it. If your unit economics is not lower than the others, you won't sustain yourself, right? So there the product market fit still is. I as a CSR company want to do this good job. There is a village next to me. It has 5,000 children. I want to treat everybody with health and this is a 5-year program. Whereas so I'll charge the CSR company 100 rupees a shot. Then comes along another supplier says I'll do it to 50. Then you don't have product market fit because your unit cost is higher than. So I'm just trying to say how do we generalize, because I know that.
But I think what Saurabh is trying to say again and again is don't link it to a specific situation. In different situations, we'll have a different.
So there is no
Let me understand.
generalized version as such.
There has to be something common. So when you're saying the retention is not of that customer. You need X number of customers, right?
Certain threshold you might.
You need X number of customers coming over a period of time. You will be a one-time customer for something.
Yeah, but
And
again,
at that
there are
level,
different lines of businesses, right? So if you compare an upgrade with let's say a Tinder or something else, where people keep on WhatsApp, you can't really compare because the nature of businesses are very different.
but the principles,
But what-
underlying principles have to be valid. And even in a WhatsApp, either you're getting enough people then doing free at home and then getting to the company and saying, give me a corporate account because I need ABCD things which I can't get
No,
there.
I'll tell you the reason why this phenomenon exists today. Initially, the fundamentals of business dictate that you should create a profitable enterprise by taking care of optimizing your cost and maximizing your revenue. That's what every economic book says. But suddenly he had this hyper-growth model where people started capturing more and more market by virtue of spending marketing dollars. They were raising from VCs, they were raising from private equity, all these places. So for those companies like WhatsApp and all these companies, which basically became huge by virtue of marketing dollars given by investors, they still did not have a viable business model.
I don't think they have unit economics as a terminology in there.
They have their own distorted unit economics.
But if they're raising, if some of these companies are raising money by advertising, there is a unit. It is not linked to.
But they don't raise money till now, no?
No, I'm saying if you take some of the sites which will give free customers, free service to you, in exchange for some market, they can
After business came back, how many years back, no?
there has to be the overall equation for you to be sustainable. there has to be an economic model which could include that if you are dependent on grants coming in by some philanthropist to say what you are doing in the noble cause, that is revenue coming in because the idea which was is worthy of being funded, may not be there by the consumer because he doesn't have the money, but someone else is doing it.
Like Khan Academy, they do an annual fundraiser.
Yeah. So people are willing to fund him.
No, I mean if you talk about simply talk about Zerodha, right, as a platform that basically made so many people invest in stocks who keep coming to it over and over again, they're actually cash flow positive because their costs were absolutely down and they made significant growth in terms of revenue. So they are a profitable enterprise by virtue of exactly that math that we talked about. So for them, they will comfortably say that
from the beginning, I don't think nobody has a problem. Nobody worries about MVP and all. If you're selling 5 or selling for 10% on day one, life is okay.
So there's a service called Yelp, which Zomato copied, right? When Yelp started, it was just a phone service where you could basically call them and say that I want you to pick up that thing from me, and this is what the menu serves. They would basically tell them this is what the menu, and they were profitable before even the application started. There was no app, nothing. So you have examples like that as well.
But using engineering terminology, being profitable is a necessary condition, but not sufficient to have product market fit.
It is not a necessary condition. It is not a necessary condition.
It is not sufficient.
If we summarize what we are
It is not, you may be profitable and still not have a product market fit because you're still losing customers.
The fundamental principle that we're talking about is whether you are sustainable today or you have a clear side of sustainability in the future. Like for example, a business like Swiggy, a business like Swiggy will spend 100 rupees today on a 10 rupee order, but then they will predict that because this customer will pay me 20 rupees every month and break even in 5 months on this customer, so I end up spending let's say 100 crores today, but I make money in 2 years from the time. And that is one foreseeable side. It may or may not happen because Zomato may come in, but the product market fit exists because there is a clear line of profitability. So sustainability, a clear line of sustainability.
So therefore there you make an assumption and your assumption could go wrong.
Yeah.
Or you may have a funding business, so people say, I love your projection, but I don't have money for that much time.
But will you call that PMF?
No, I was not trying to ask.
I think the best summary and
You have a clear
is product market fit is a gray area. And it is a storm in which many of us walk in. That's all the time.
This is
That is the summary.
This reminds me, we were in IIT together, and in mechanics, so there was a Coriolis force, you remember? Coriolis force. So the way physics without tears explains it is, if you tie a stone to a string and move it around, there are 3 forces at work. One is the centrifugal force, which is inward. One is centripetal. The third force is called Coriolis force.
All you have said, that is a program said it, product market fit is a feeling.
No, but I think if I just want to make a sense of what he's saying is that.
Okay, so another bizarre diagram for all of you. This is what you will be in some part of No, this will require a long discussion because you already had a long discussion. But this is what you are supposed to achieve in the forthcoming months. So most startups today are basically vying for not only product market fit, but basically vying for all these 4 different kinds of fitness simultaneously, right? And I barely have the time to go deep into it, but again, I will basically show you what product market fit I've already shown you, product channel fitment. This is basically where you guys are. If you have achieved initial PMF, this is where you guys are exactly, and this is where PMF expands.
Saturation in terms of the size of the market?
Size of the market. You can't go beyond
So
that.
before you reach the size where you now begin to recover, the
Now
market.
you either start a different product or you address a different market or something. But that specific market is completely saturated.
So like Swiggy, they branched out into Instamart or something like that.
You can say Byju's when they started coaching centers in Kota.
Oh yeah.
Even like Ola because like expanded
Ola Electric.
cities.
Okay. Or Byju's in the current form where they had to reinvent the coaching sessions from tablets to.
They created EdTech to address coaching center problem.
Yeah.
Then from there, EdTech they again transformed into coaching center.
Yeah.
Right?
So sort of one of the things which as an investor, I actually insist on startups is don't give me time and all that stuff. Give me first year song. If you're raising money for 15 months, give me 15 months of song. Because what happens is otherwise you're lost in that number and even that doesn't make sense. So please tell me if you're raising 10 crores for me, what is the song that you're addressing and where will it? I think that's how
That makes sense, I think that's fair actually, quite fair. But again depends on what exactly your number. So for instance, let's say you put up your ads everywhere, right? And there is a click-through rate of 10% on your ads, right? From there people come to your application on a mobile platform or on a web platform. From there they will see how many people sign up, which is typically 6 to 7%. Out of that, if people have to pay money, if it's not a premium model they go for, they have to pay money, it's typically 1% or 0.5%. So when you spending marketing dollars, how much of percentage of people you can actually convert? This is conversion optimization you do at that stage. That is what defines and describes how much revenue you will potentially make in the next 18 months to 20 months based on the size of the market. So if the market, if the startup you're planning to grow at 20% month on month, you can actually calculate how much will you be in a span of 18 months or something. That should define the way revenue should be
But
converted.
variables are place. So you basically do a sensitivity to say, look, if these variables shift, where you will end up, either this side or that side, right? So you can't do a sensitivity.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the questions that I think investors asked me when I was raising was that how soon can you finish our money? Right? What is your runway?
Yeah.
Because if my runway is short, then they don't understand why it is short.
Why do you finish your money? Why do you No, so I'm just, I can see how many different dimensions there are to it. And I was trying to just get, because we'll have an interesting person coming today, Ravi Karikipati. Some of you may know him. He was the CTO at Flipkart and now he's an investor. And he joined our board. And we're trying to learn this thing from him as well. So in the fireside, I presume we'll have a lot of questions around this. But this is quite clearly an important thing, and why it's what you feel about the question is, if there's money raining in the world, and investors don't know where to put the money, then they're willing to take a higher risk, understand? And they say, okay, fine, his story makes something, I have to make a judgment. Now, I have money to spend. I have more money than these 5 cases need. So I can take a higher risk to spend the money like the Japanese, Mr. Son and everybody has done, and now they're trying to recover because of political problem. So that is why I think people also spend money very quickly to reach a level very quickly, because the assumption is once I reach that level, I'll wipe out a lot of the other players who don't have the money. So I'm the only one standing, and when I'm the only one standing, I would also have to improve my product. Either A, to be in a monopoly, doesn't matter whether I improve or not, I get all the market price. Or I would have improved my product during the time to make sure that it sell at 10 and my cost will be 9. To me, I think it's a combination of these factors, because eventually you have to create value in the eyes of the consumer, so he's willing to pay you more than your unit cost.
But even if you create value, I mean, there is a dichotomy out here. Dichotomy is that on one hand you have hyper-growth startups who have created value but have not been profitable, even though they grabbed the last share of the market. On the other hand, you have something like a Weaver, right, that burnt money like crazy. Mr. Son's money, as you said. Kept on burning money till they realize they have no money at all. And they have no business model, they are running in millions and millions of dollars of debt.
But I'm sure when they were getting money, they would have built a story. Right? The assumptions in the story go wrong. Both people, both the guy who's thinking of the story and the person who's funding it, agree on those assumptions. Those assumptions turn out right. Or the environment turns out like right now. The environment is turning out right. So even if there are good ideas, people are saying, look, I've already invested, I burned my fingers, I wish I had money, I don't have. So therefore, the ability to get money is linked to that aspect as an overriding issue. But under that are business ideas being worked upon. And each one, like when he says if he invests, he doesn't want to go far out because the assumption goes haywire. 12 months, I think I know what's going to happen in this world. I know what's happening with competition. I'll keep my information intact, and I think if I can do it in 12 months, I'll get my return. So I'm just trying to see the principles which we need to draw.
But from his standpoint, he would have invested in 20 startups, right? And you definitely know for sure that 2 of those startups are going to go big because of the space they are in,
But
or the product they are in.
I'm seeing so long into this formula. Today there's someone else I read about, someone who's done a hell of a lot of investments, including the company. There was a newspaper article, 300 investments done.
Kunal Beryl and Rohit Bansal.
This was the paper today. Catalyst? Is something like Catalyst? So he also had done X number of exits and X number of failures. But he's just saying that his track record in total track at this time is looking good. And you're saying that you have a horizon to say that in so much time, so now that you've been doing it for X number of years, if so long as your total calculation is showing that you are getting enough of return to pay back, you may have missed out 2 guys who became unicorns.
But the time will be different
It will be contrarian to me, right? So, we take bets, we know we're going to lose money in many of them, right? But I think the most important thing which we continue to tell our team is that you're severely punished for missing a routine, right? You can lose money on services, not a problem. So we know how it works. But if you miss a great deal, then you're punished. It's completely asymmetric business. I mean, it's completely non-individual, right? So if you
How do you say you missed a great deal? If it turned out to be a great deal.
So you said,
In the hindsight. In the
why
hindsight.
why did we miss the Ronaldo, for example, or something else?
This is totally possible. Your team gets up in the morning and prays कि आज कोई unicorn नहीं बनना चाहिए.
So are you like a short seller for startups?
Sorry?
Are you like a short seller for startups?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so I'll move to the next slide. How to wrap it up in the next 15 minutes. This is again a slide taken from the YC website. This talks about where PMF actually lies, where there is no PMF and there is an overkill.
So explain that.
Yeah.
What are these lines? The red and green.
So peak customer value, company performance, and PMF threshold.
So if it's below that level, there is no product market fit, so you're dead. If it's above that, you become super unicorn, and if you're in the middle, you're sustainable.
Is this
So-
the S curve you're talking about? Or?
You can treat it as an S curve, but this, I mean, in that article that I saw, it was not, they didn't talk about an S curve per se, but they simply said that this is the region you tend to exist in order to become a sustainable enterprise. For the sake of convenience, we'll consider it to be cash flow positive and profitable.
Yeah, so therefore in the beginning you're not making anything, but you're going on spending.
Yeah.
And then you reach a point where your total revenue and total cost.
But again, the question over here is that even when you go for an overkill, are you profitable? Like most unicorns in India are not profitable today. So what do we talk about? What do we do then?
No, but they may have a product market fit or no.
Product market fit, but yet not profitable.
No, but
According to our definition, agreed definition.
Then my question is, suppose there are 3 players and I have got into product market fit, but I want to kill the other. And someone willing to give me the money. So I'm willing to go not profitable for 2 years to get them out, and then I'll reap the benefit.
That's what Amazon did.
That's what Tata did with Jaguar, no? They had estimated they're going to go in for losses for the next 5 years, and they bought Jaguar. But that was a calculated move actually. But how much of that tech companies do, I don't think I've seen that. I mean, Oracle captured like 69 companies, acquired 69 companies and killed all of them.
They killed everybody else. They have such a long horizon.
Anyway, another.
Paytm has kind of killed a lot of players by doing a lot of cashback.
But they got Chinese money, no?
Yeah, but still Paytm is.
Paytm.
Yeah, they have a large user base, very high frequency of usage, but in terms of sustainability of their core business, it's still not there.
I bought Paytm shares, by the way.
No, but is it because now they are being disintermediated by UPI?
It was 2050,
You didn't
now
have
it's around
UPI coming in,
746 or something.
You didn't have ATM solution.
Payments are free. Their original model was built on saying every time a payment gets made, they will make small penny.
Also, sir,
Now it is free.
also
Therefore, they've got
So
this.
regulation got.
also they have a wallet business.
Yeah.
They were using the flow.
So
Yeah,
this-
they thought they would be able to use.
So this is probably what happens after you have achieved product market fit. Let's say you are a business and you're assuming that you're profitable and everything, you're sustainable. This is what most people tend to do after you have achieved that. It's called late aftermath of PMF, where most people either create additional features in the product, most people go to adjacent markets or diversify their portfolio, create an entirely different product altogether, which has nothing to do with the first product, right?
So would you say, for
That you are responding to competition and opportunities, but to remain profitable.
Yeah. But today, Facebook created almost 10 products out of their portfolio, which had nothing to do with the Facebook platform per se. So similarly, if you diversify your portfolio by creating additional products, like for instance, big example could be Intuit. Intuit, the first product that came was basically QuickBooks. But gradually, as QuickBooks succeeded, they kept on creating products, financial products for different segments actually.
also
Any product, I mean, any company like that who has diversified their portfolio. Now, this is very important for people like you because you are going to use a lot of digital marketing in order to reach out to people, and 70% of your traffic it's been observed that 70% comes from only one channel. But the irony over here is that you really don't know which channel that is. That's where you kind of go wrong because you have no clue whether it's going to be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, if you're digitally marketing your product or your service. But most of the companies if you talk about man companies, they seem to have gotten their majority share of people from one channel or two channels at most.
Different channels.
Different channels. So this is predominantly called, I had shown you the diagram which, market model channel. This is predominantly that channel product fitment actually.
So, but why does this phenomena occur? Why does this phenomena
Because
occur?
maybe the people you're chasing, are paid or on some other specific platform and you're chasing everything. But you might actually get it from one singular platform. 60% of people who actually are paid customers for you could come from one platform. But initially when you're actually endorsing your product, you really don't know which platform should I use. So only after a certain period of time when you monitor the numbers, you see that this guy has 60% of my traffic has come from Twitter. So you know that Twitter is going to actually give me revenues. So why waste money on other platforms? But it's not entirely known initially.
And therefore, you should be moving towards one instead of all three. You're getting a better return.
I mean, the ideal state would be that you have one ideal fitment, ideal channel, which you have picked, which you have selected after observation, and you put ads, you stop doing inorganic ads on them after a period of time, and you still start getting traffic. That is an ideal state. So you're not spending any money on advertising, but people are coming and flocking to your application or your product and still buying. That indicates that you have achieved virality to some extent. Like I remember Nintendo. What was that thing that came 3-4 years back? They had come up Pokemon Go. When it came, it exploded actually. Everybody in Bangalore I saw was playing Pokemon Go on the roads in JP Nagar, in Jayanagar, in Koramangala, wherever I would go, I would see people playing Pokemon Go. But it soon exploded, and they had used only one channel, which was Facebook. So for them, 80% of the growth happened through Facebook. And this is pretty much, if you see, this is exactly news channels create new companies. So it's channels create companies. Companies don't create channels. You will have to create a product based on the kind of channel that is there. They don't cater to you, you cater to them. And this is an example.
If you have one success on one channel, you're saying that you should see what you do on the other channel?
No, you don't.
Or what? What is it?
Over-reliance on one channel should not be there actually. So for instance, all these games that were there, Farmville and a lot of other games were there on Facebook. And the moment, and these games were getting huge traffic because of Facebook traffic. Because people would come to Facebook and they would see that game, go to that game, play. But once Facebook changed its algorithm and these games were not featured at all in the newsfeed of people, they lost almost 60% of their user traffic. So over-reliance on a channel is not there. You have to have a product that caters to a channel, right? Not the channel catering to. Channel can change anytime. Twitter can change its algo any point in time. That's not in your hands actually.
So then, just adding what you said earlier. So I start doing something and I find that 70% is on Facebook. You're saying first of all now prioritize in favor of Facebook for this product or this version and do away with the rest and hope that people come to your website on their own and get organic traffic.
Yeah, but again,
Now then you're saying, then you have to see that this product, if it has to also work on other channels, do you modify it? Because the segment is different, or, is that the point?
so you have to explore other
Maybe a
channels
variant
that
of
might.
this product for
Yeah.
the community which is most likely to be on the other channel.
Yeah. So if you look at Playdom, they were basically advertising on mobile first, and from mobile they moved to social actually, because social became popular in mobile. Everybody was doing social. So you have to keep changing your channel based on how the channel reacts. If you stick to a channel for long, chances are that you will not get noticed if the channel changes.
So one more thing which I don't know whether it makes sense.
Sure.
You have separate teams for channel marketing, expertise in different channels. They work almost independently, except the messages are common. They work around that, but they build their own expertise for each of those channels individually. Have you come across?
Yeah, I have. There are teams that cater to that.
Smaller company is very difficult to
Startup they are not.
Mostly you would have one digital marketing team in a startup with 2-3 people. But the larger the company gets, you'd probably have dedicated resources to Twitter, to Facebook, to something. This is typically the channel and the model fitment. If you look at how they get fitment, this is typically the example of how they basically work. So if for a low ARPU CAC, you have companies like Facebook, Yelp, MailChimp and WhatsApp. The moment it starts increasing, ARPU starts increasing, you probably have different kinds of startups, right? At a high
I don't know the term. What is ARP?
average revenue per user.
So what's the message here?
Message here is that in order to get, and there are different kinds of fitments. Like if you saw that picture where you had channel and model, business model fitment, right? There are different kinds of fitments for different companies. Depends on which business you're operating. Look at Facebook, there is absolutely no revenue from a user that you're getting. It's kind of free for every user. So over here, they have a fitment right here, even though they're not charging anything. So the model fits the channel. Okay, I think the confusion is because I went past. This is exactly what I'm trying to show. I showed this first, then came the product channel fitment, which I was showing just now. Now I'm showing channel to model fitment, and then I'm going to show model to market fitment. So then these 4 fitments have to be acquired in order for you to say that you have acquired fitments properly. Product market fitments happens to be just one of them. Right? The reason why it was creating confusion is because I just went through that and people forgot about it.
Isn't that the superset product market fit and the others are subsets?
No, I think they have to have simultaneous fitments. They're not superset.
So for example, just to respond to this question, so you're looking for a product market fit, but you're operating different channels, and you therefore can play with the channel to improve the overall product market fit by optimization, changing and so on. And similarly, you may have models which are different, or business models which are different. Raise money from CSR, get grant, do whatever. And then you try and see how can you play around with the model to keep continuously improving the overall formula of product market.
That's why I said
They are
both subsets of those.
No, there are no subsets. See, all these things
What
have
you're
to be
saying is they have to be met
all
simultaneously.
mathematically
If you were to, so let me put it like this.
independent variables.
If you were to become like a sustainable company, you have to have all these different kinds of fitments at the same time.
Yeah. So each one adds on to the overall
Picture of you being a sustainable
But
company.
they're independent variables in the
Yeah.
sense that
There is a possibility that if you don't have a channel fitment, how will you achieve a product market fitment? Most
So
people
they
will
interact
not.
with each other, but they you can tweak the parameters individually and there's interaction.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
This is the last slide of. This is typically the model market fitment. So if your market is not growing at a sustainable pace, let's say at a 10% rate, market is not growing. If you're operating in a market which does not grow at all, you are not going to grow too much, right? So today, if you see, like if the FTX thing had not happened, crypto was growing crazy, right? Crypto was growing crazy, right? Any dissent?
yeah, it was good.
all Ponzi schemes.
It almost looks like a Ponzi scheme now, but
The scheme was responded to by a policy.
the guy took deposits of $10 billion and all. But the question over here is that any market which is very new keeps on growing like crazy. crypto is an example, but there could be many markets, right? For instance, 15 years back, this nanotech market was growing at almost 20%. But suddenly it stopped because it needed more capital expenditure, more and more cost, more in R&D laboratories and all that. So most venture capitalists were not very keen on spending that amount of money on nanotech, although they have some very groundbreaking products. And I think there are a lot of high-tech investors which have popped out in the US which still invest in nanotech and all these kind of technologies. But not a majority of investors don't, because their LPs don't agree to such technologies, right?
Fund cycle time.
Fund cycle time.
Year cycle, then it
If it's a 7 to 8 year you're looking at, then probably they will not agree to that. So most of these, if you look at the model market fitment, if you see ServiceNow, right? Even if you have one customer and you're charging a lot of money from that customer, it's still okay. So anything below, so if I draw a straight line here, from here to here, anything below that is not a fitment. Anything above that is a fitment. So if you either you have one customer paying too much money, or you have many customers paying less money.
In your product category or whatever.
Yeah, in a product category.
So the value perceived by the customer for your service is X, and then competition forces you to go up or down depending on.
Yeah, so today Apple does not require too many Indians to actually buy it. No? It requires even 5% Indians buy Apple phones for next 6 months. They've got a solid top line. But having said that,
5% of Indians is like 100% of Apple market.
like North India, almost 30% are sold out on Apple phones, right?
No, so the question I was trying to say is that different product categories will need different scale for the business to be viable. And then within that market, you will have competition, which is making sure that you keep your prices at the right level.
Yeah, but is how challenging is that market? Like, is having only 2 customers good for you, or do you need like 100 customers? So if you're having 2 customers is good for you to break even, then it's okay, I think. For Walmart or for any retail chain like a D-Mart, you need many people to come to your shop every day. Thank you so much for your insight and your brilliant points. Please connect with me offline.